Good evening and welcome to Know Your Rights. This is the show where you hear directly from the lawyers who break down the law and explain the rights of citizens on common legal issues that confront Belizeans on a regular basis. Tonight, we will be discussing car and motor vehicle accidents and why it is important for every driver, pedestrian, and passenger to know his or her rights and responsibilities after a collision. Joining us to shed light on this all too familiar topic is attorney Estevan Perera from the law firm of Estevan Perera and Company. Good evening and welcome, Steve.
Hi, good evening, Khadija.
How are you?
Good, excellent.
You're here to speak about motor vehicle accidents, and I said a topic all too familiar. Probably a lot of drivers have been in a collision, minor and major, in Belize, especially in Belize City, driving around.
Yes.
Insurance, I consider it a necessary evil, especially when my bill comes. But explain to us the importance of having vehicle and motor insurance.
Well, there is a requirement in Belize that all persons who have a vehicle must be insured and must have the third-party insurance at minimum. There is a requirement under the Motor Vehicle Insurance Third-Party Act that actually mandates all vehicles to have this insurance. Without it, if a person was to use a vehicle and that's not insured and he's caught by the police, he could actually, could be charged, and if found guilty, he can be charged fined up to $400 or 6 months imprisonment.
Okay.
There is also a possibility that if found guilty driving a vehicle without an insurance, that you could the judge or the magistrate could also take away your driver's license for a period of up to 12 months.
So it is very heavily pursued.
Yes.
And it's one of the main things that I notice when you encounter a checkpoint, they check for the insurance. But a lot of people still try and escape it, probably because of the fees, as I said, when the bill comes. I feel like that's something you rarely would use. So why do you need it, really?
Well, it is true that it's an upfront cost that people have to incur. However, you also feel very relaxed knowing that when you're driving, you know you're covered, that in case an accident happens, you never plan for an accident to happen, but you feel good if an accident does happen, you know you're covered.
Okay.
And sometimes in Belize, the persons, when they catch into an accident, they might not be able to make a payment to the person who is hurt or the other vehicle that gets damaged.
Okay.
And the insurance helps with that because you might not have a $5,000 readily available to pay for that damage.
Okay.
So once you're insured, that also brings that comfort. Plus, it helps you in paying for any damage or injury that you cause.
Sort of having like that safety net.
It gives you that safety net, yeah. Something that helps.
You said that the minimum drivers in Belize must have is the third-party insurance. Explain to us the third-party insurance.
Well, what the third-party insurance is, the minimum, is that it covers generally up to $20,000 in property damage. It also covers up to $50,000 per individual for personal injuries. And it's usually capped by a $200,000 amount, so meaning that only up to 5 persons or 4 persons at $50,000 would be covered in any one accident. There's also some insurance companies would restrict this insurance policy to only vehicles that drive on public roads.
Okay.
But there are a few insurance companies that allow coverage with the third party on both private and public roads. Okay. And it's important that you check that because nowadays we have a lot of private parking areas. For example, when you go to Brody's, when you go to Sea View, when you go to the Romax Plaza, that's private. And if an accident should happen in there, you want to be covered. So it's important that you check that.
Okay, so it could actually be that the policy people have out there right now and they don't know doesn't cover them when they're in a parking lot, like
Correct.
in a
A
Broly's
lot of
parking
people
lot.
don't realize that. And a lot of
Okay.
times they get into an accident coming out of a parking lot.
Yes.
And then they don't realize it, but they're not
Yeah.
covered.
Especially out of a parking lot,
Correct, correct. So
reversing
it's
and so.
very important when taking out that insurance, especially third party, that you ask and
Yes.
you make sure. There are some providers in Belize that actually do cover it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the fine prints, on the documents that you mentioned there just now. But moving on from the third party, you can get a more comprehensive package in insurance, can you?
Yes.
Can you explain to us more the comprehensive?
Well, what the comprehensive insurance does is that it covers both your vehicle, the insured vehicle, as well as the third party's vehicle. So if you were to get into an accident and your vehicle is damaged and the other person's vehicle is damaged, you are able to make a claim for the repairs to your vehicle to be done, as well as the repairs for the third party vehicles to be done as well.
Yeah.
So that helps you on both sides. It's a little bit more costly, but it also has its pros and cons.
And it might be worth it in the end.
Yes.
So, as we said, the insurance is something heavily legally pursued. They check you whenever you reach police checkpoint. Let's say that you don't have insurance, but you intended to go and get insurance. Do you have does our law provide for a leeway then for you to basically speak to the officer and say, boss, I'm just going to get my insurance, so and so or so?
Well, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
The insurance policy is very, the act is very strict.
Okay.
You must be covered, and you're not supposed to be driving the vehicle while it's not covered. So if you know your insurance is going to run out, you're supposed to go and reinsure the vehicle perhaps a day or two before it really goes off. So there's no excuse for that. And if you're caught, then you'll face the fines, like I just said. You can be charged. And it's not a ticket. It's actually a charge, and it's done by police. There is, in our laws, a defense for persons who drive a vehicle that's not registered. But let me explain that. For example, let's say you buy a vehicle from someone, and a lot of times we buy these vehicles and they have these test plates.
Yes.
So when you buy this vehicle, now there will be a time you pay for the vehicle, and there will be this time where you have to drive the vehicle off from these car salesmen.
Yeah, from the dealer. Yes.
Correct, from the dealer. So if caught driving that vehicle without license, you can be charged. Now there is a defense to that. If you are driving towards the traffic department to take that vehicle to go register, that's an actual defense that's provided for. But that's not for the insurance, that's for the licensing part of your vehicle. But for insurance, there is no defense for not driving without an insurance.
So before you even go get gas, make sure you got your insurance.
Correct. You require the both. You require the gas to move the vehicle, and you require the insurance to drive the vehicle on the roads legally.
Okay, let's go into the collision. When you are involved in a collision, we don't know who is at fault yet, but what is the procedure? Because whenever you talk to different people tell you what you're supposed to do when you're in an accident.
Correct,
what are you
correct.
supposed to do?
Well, if you get catch in an accident, and as soon as the accident occurs, if you're okay, you come out of your vehicle, you make sure you call the police, because that's the first thing. You're not supposed to move the vehicle from where it's at once you catch into a collision. And that's why sometimes people get upset when they're driving the traffic and they notice the vehicles don't move.
Especially on Boulevard.
Exactly. But it's important because that's required. So when you call the police will come, they'll take the measurements, they'll check, they'll take photos and all that. And that's going to help you to decide at a later date whether or not you're guilty, or it's your fault, or it's the other side's fault.
Okay.
Most cases, when you get into an accident and you come out, you're going to be a little flustered. So you won't be in your proper mind to really decide whether or not you're right, whether you're wrong. You might be angry, you might be upset. So you call the police, you make them come, you make them take their measurements, you make them do everything that they would normally do.
Okay.
What's most important when the police comes is to make sure that you speak to the police officer and find out the name of the person on the other side. Find out who owns the vehicle, get a copy of their vehicle license, get a copy of their insurance, take a photo of it. Because a lot of times we get into an accident and we think that the police has done it, and we expect that it's going to be there. But it's also important for you to do your little checks and make sure that you know who was driving, who owns the vehicle that was being driven,
Okay.
whether it's insured, and by which insurance company.
Okay.
It's also important, I always inform my friends and even my clients, whenever the accident happens, make sure you take as much photos for your own purpose. Because when you take these pictures, those are the pictures that you're going to take to your lawyer, or you're going to take that to your insurance company to show them as well. So you need your evidence as well. Once that's done, the police will take all the particulars of what happened, take the particulars of the individuals, and then they'll most likely ask the two drivers, to make a report, to make a statement as to what has transpired. If it's clear to the police is at fault, the police would probably give a notice of intention to prosecute to that person. But if they don't, they sometimes serve both parties with the notice of intention.
Okay. We need to take a very short break.
Sure.
But when we come back, we'll get more into how you go about making a claim. So we will be right back to continue our discussion on car and motor vehicle accidents. Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is attorney Estevan Perera, and we're discussing car and motor vehicle accidents, including the rights and responsibilities of every driver, pedestrian, and passenger. So we had a very good introduction on the insurance. From now we know that at minimum, you need to have third-party insurance if you're a driver, right? If you're involved in a collision, what is the procedure to make a claim to the insurance company?
Let's say, for example, you catch into an accident, and if you are at fault, you could then go to your insurance company and inform them of the accident. If you are not at fault, you're still supposed to report the accident to the insurance company.
Okay.
You are also able to, and remember I told you to check the insurance that's held by the other person.
Yes.
Because sometimes you find that the other person might not want to admit to the fault, or might not assist with respect to the accident. And so, but at least if you know their insurance, you could go to their insurance and report the accident and say, listen, I had an accident the other day. You give them the time, the place, the information, as well as inform them that it's one of their insured.
Okay.
And you would present that to them. The next thing would be, obviously, most of the insurance companies would ask you is to get an estimate for the damage suffered, what you're claiming for. That would also be a requirement that they would ask, and then you would present that to them as well. They would then do their checks and speak with you, and they would ask you most of the time to fill out a form explaining what had happened, how the accident was caused, and if you believe you are at fault or the other person's at fault. It's always important for individuals in Belize, if you get into an accident, not to quickly jump and say, I'm at fault, because they have a problem in Belize where saying that might render you also, or make you appear to be guilty for the criminal part of the accident. And you don't want to do that. Plus, most of the insurance companies have a provision in their policies that state that you're not supposed to admit guilt without first consulting with them and without first getting legal advice. And so it's always important to do that, check with them and report it to them so that they could speak with you and give you advice as to what happened and who may be at fault.
Okay. Suppose you are not at fault, but the other person actually does not have insurance. Is you getting repaid for your repairs, basically, does that end right there? And that's on you?
No, it's not. If someone causes the accident and they cause damage to your vehicle and they don't have insurance, then it's important to do the very first step that I told you. You call the police. Because this might be the only time that you'll ever have to ask them what's their name, where they live, all the information, where they work, and all that. If they don't have insurance, they tend to disappear. And they tend to be very cagey with their answers when you ask them where they work, what's their name, and all that. So it's important to find out all that and call the police so that the police could get it from them. And once you get all that information, if you sustain any damage to your vehicle or person, then you could always sue them personally in court. You could take them to court and request that they compensate you for whatever loss or damage you sustained.
Okay. It's interesting because you make these processes sound so easy and not frustrating at all. But as someone who has been involved in a motor vehicle accident, and I wasn't even driving, I was parked in front of my house and they hit me, right? Yeah. I found it extremely frustrating. Yeah. And I always get this sensation that we feel the insurance companies will kind of read between every line or put every fine print so as to not pay, right? On what grounds would the insurance company have to not uphold your claim?
Okay, I do believe that there is a difference between the insurance companies in Belize. I won't go into the details as to which one is better or not, but I must say that it's important to always read your policies. There are some insurance companies in Belize that are far better than the others, and you need to check that. But coming back to your question, it's in respect to the claims, and if they're going to use any fine print not to pay.
Yeah, yeah.
The ones that we've seen in the past, I've seen in court, we've seen insurance companies try not to make payment to individuals because, and a popular one is that the person failed to tell them that they bought a salvage vehicle. A lot of time in Belize, a great number of the vehicles are salvage vehicles, and sometimes we're afraid, or sometimes we're shy, or sometimes we're kind of ashamed for say we buy one salvage vehicle, even though it's minor damage and we fix it up and what's not. But it's important to make that clear to them that, listen, this is a salvage vehicle, it was repaired, and I want this insurance. We've seen some insurance companies say, well, you didn't tell us it was salvage, so I'm not covering that insurance. I've also seen situations where some insurance companies, and I urge people to stay away from the insurance companies that try to restrict you to your number of drivers, because we also see a lot of insurance companies use this to evade the payments. Because they would ask you, how many drivers would you have? What's the name of these drivers? And then you write, and I've tried it myself, you write down 3 persons that may drive the vehicle. However, during the time that you have this vehicle, sometimes you have your mechanic drive it, sometimes you have a friend, sometimes a family relative comes from the US and they want to drive your vehicle, and you allow them. And so it's always important that when you take out this insurance policy, you try to make sure that it's a policy that says anybody could drive it. And there are insurance companies that allow that. That provides for that, that anybody could drive it.
So you would advise that people, when taking out your insurance, shop around.
Yes, right? And I think that's important. And lots of people don't. You'd be surprised that we have a lot of people that come to see me and speak to me about insurance claims, and I'd say 90% of them don't even have a copy of their insurance policy. It's always important that you take this thing serious, that when you take out your insurance, you keep a copy of your policy, you have you follow up, you make sure you ask all the necessary questions, you get the basics as to what's covered, what's not covered, so that you understand what exactly you're paying for.
Okay. There are a lot of incidents lately, and we have a lot of events, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking from the perspective of Belize City, but this is where I live, city-centric, right? Yeah. But a lot of events would happen, as we say, out district, and when persons are coming from these events, many times they may be a bit intoxicated from whatever they are doing. Now, this is a criminal offense, driving, but on the side of the insurance, on the side of the claim, if you are intoxicated, does the insurance, can they automatically say at that point, well, we not honor whatever claim come out of that if you're involved in a
correct. This again, that's important. That's a good question. Again, an insurance contract is a contract, and it usually states in most insurance policies that if an accident occurs and you are intoxicated, that you will not be covered. It usually says that the insurance will be valid only if persons driving are not intoxicated, and that they have a valid driver's license.
Yeah.
So if you're intoxicated, high chance that the insurance company will not provide you with coverage.
You're out.
Yeah.
We have to take one more short break, and then we will be right back to continue our discussions on car and motor vehicle accidents.
Sure.
Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am your host, Khadija Usher, and tonight we are here with attorney Estevan Perera discussing car and motor vehicle accidents. So, Steve, you touched on a few issues that would lead to the insurer not honoring your claim.
Correct.
Now, what in the instance that you feel that the insurance should honor your claim, who can you turn to?
Okay. That's a good question. A lot of people don't realize this, but there's two procedures that's available to persons who, if the insurance company does not honor your claim. First, I would always recommend that persons look into writing to the supervisor of insurance. A lot of people don't know that that's an avenue.
Yeah.
However, in the third party, the Motor Vehicle Insurance Third Party Act, there is a provision in there that actually allows a person to write to the supervisor of insurance regarding their matter, and the supervisor would then look into the case, contact the insurance company, and they would try to sort it out. Now, that's...
Where is the supervisor of insurance?
The supervisor of insurance is in Belmopan.
Belmopan.
But that's the first step that one can take. It's free, and that's an avenue that's readily available to most people, if you don't have the means or resources to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
Once you've tried that, and if that fails, then I would suggest you contact your attorney, and the attorney can write a letter to your insurance company explaining your position and see whether or not they would change their mind or change their position.
Okay. And in the event that a similar case, maybe the insurer honor your claim, but they did not reimburse as much as they said they would, if it's to another party or if it's to yourself. What avenues do you have? The same ones?
Again, it's the same, yes. Because if the insurance company compensates you 50% of what you're making your claim for, and you feel that you deserve the additional 50%, again, you could present your case to the supervisor of insurance, and they will look into it. And if you choose not to do that, then again, you could get your attorney to prepare a report and write your position and request that the additional payment be made. Because remember, when you're applying for this insurance, it's for an indemnity. It's for them to compensate you for whatever loss that you've suffered.
Okay.
It's not a fraction of the loss that you've suffered.
Okay. And most of the discussion has been focused mostly around collision, vehicle and vehicle collision. But we have other motorists on the roadway, as well as we have pedestrians on the roadway. Is it ever possible to bring a claim up against a pedestrian or a bicycle rider?
Yes, actually, I've had to deal with one recently. There are instances where vehicles, you have a vehicle driving or a vehicle parked, and you have bicycles running into it.
Yeah.
We have bicycles hitting the doors, bicycles hitting in the back. Sometimes we have bicycles going up stop, and they hit the front of vehicles moving.
Yeah.
So yes, and if that does happen, yes, you can bring a claim against that individual as well.
Okay.
Yeah, for whatever damage it caused to the vehicle. But most cases, a bicycle crashing into a vehicle, it'll be a minor dent or so, no?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be substantial or a grave damage to the vehicle.
Yeah, that's true, but that comes from the perspective of the driver in the vehicle.
Yes, of course. But yes, you can bring a claim against them for any damage that they cause.
Okay, and in terms of pedestrians, and maybe I should backtrack a little bit, but if you are involved in an accident with a pedestrian and the pedestrian is hurt, what is the procedure that you are to go through in terms of making a claim? And perhaps, as you said, the case isn't finished yet. The police do their screening and so, but case isn't finished yet. Pedestrian have medical bills and so. Do insurance, third party or comprehensive, cover for the pedestrians' medical claims? It
does. There is a provision in our Insurance Act that provides that if an individual suffers some kind of personal injury, whether or not it's a pedestrian or a person in another vehicle,
Okay.
if that person requires assistance, he can, through a no-fault claim, request that the insurance company provide him with up to $5,000 coverage for any personal injury that he has suffered, so that you don't have to wait until the civil matter is finished for you to seek medical assistance. You could actually go get the assistance that you need and inform one of either of the insurance companies for the vehicles that you require this assistance, and that even though they're not at fault as yet, that you require the $5,000, and they're obliged to provide that to assist you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if the viewers realize, but a lot of what you have said, it requires for you, the person involved, to pursue the insurance company.
Yes.
Not like they would come and say, well, we offer you, remember we offer you this, we offer you that. And I'm reflecting on the American insurance commercials I see where they say, we are here with you, all state and those things. But it kind of seems to be the opposite way in Belize. So pursuing your company is very important, your insurance company.
Yes, and again, when you choose, and like you said, you shop around for your insurance. And when you choose your insurance company, make sure you choose one where you're very familiar with your agent. And they have insurance companies which are, I would say, have equivalent customer service like that.
Okay.
There are insurance companies that provide great customer service. When you see that you have an agent you could call whenever you got an accident, those things really help. And that might actually help you in getting the compensation that you require to help the person that's injured or yourself that's who may be injured as well.
Okay.
You brought up the pedestrian topic, which is very important. I think that's something that we need to deal with in Belize. When I was growing up, your parents would tell you, look left and look right before you cross the street. But in Belize, I almost think some people close their eyes and just step across the street.
Yes.
So the pedestrian, while there are laws that give some kind of right to the pedestrians crossing and allows you, it says that you're supposed to give them way if you see them at a distance and you're crossing the pedestrian ramp. It's also important for the pedestrians to take heed of the vehicles that are coming, because sometimes these vehicles have their blind spots, or sometimes they're coming at a certain speed. And there is what you call contributory negligence in Belize. So for example, if a pedestrian simply just walks in front of your vehicle, and I'm sure you'll notice on the highways recently, especially by the roundabouts, you see people running across the highways.
Yes.
If those persons were to get into an accident and a vehicle hit them, they may be found as contributing to the accident, and they might not receive a full coverage yet.
Yeah. So Steve, what final words you want to emphasize to our viewers when it comes to insurance policies in Belize?
I would like to tell the viewers to make sure that you shop around, make sure you read your insurance policies. At least ask for the basics of what it involves. Try to make sure that you're covered in both the private roads and the public roads. Try to make sure that you're not limited to your drivers. Make sure that anyone who has a valid driver license can drive your vehicle, and it would ensure your vehicle would be covered. Also try to find out. Ask around about the insurance companies. Ask about which insurance companies helps in terms of the accidents, which ones pay for these accidents. And I think and also try to ensure that you use all the benefits of your insurance. For example, there's another benefit that I find that a lot of people don't use. Like, for example, if an accident happens and someone dies, there is a no-fault benefit that goes to the person who dies. Like, that person or the family members can go to either of the insurance, the insurance companies, and request the use of this no-fault. And with this, they would be entitled to get funds to put towards the funeral. They would also get funds towards the spouse, and they would also get some monies towards the children of the individual who died. And you'd be surprised that a lot of people, when these things happen, they never make these claims. And it's a right. Like, you could actually utilize it. And if everybody utilized it, I think it would help. Some people just they don't know
They
their
don't
rights.
know.
Yes.
They really just don't know their rights, right? But that's why we are here, and thank you for being here. But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show for tonight. Thank you, Estevan, for joining us and providing important information on tonight's topic. Next week, we will be joined by legal advisor to the General Sales Tax Department and former magistrate, Ed P. Usher, who will enlighten us on our rights and responsibilities when it comes to taxation laws and regulation. Tonight's episode of Know Your Rights repeats at 1 p.m. on Sunday on Channel 7, and it will also be available for your viewing on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching, and good night.